Okay, hi guys. We are back again. It is 7 p.m. Central Time, and this is the second portion of our live event. I had so much fun earlier today, and we had Jamie McGee and Carlisle Labouchaine stop by and talk about their books, talk about writing. We talked a lot about Bound by Duty, which is why we're actually here. To give you a little background, today is the official 1-year anniversary, book birthday, if you will, for Bound by Duty, which is my first book. Here is my baby. So I started writing this book actually 2 years ago today. Yes, had to double check the dates. 2 years ago today, and 1 year ago today I published it. Obviously that was an intentional thing, and it has been the wildest ride ever since then. So today I wanted to do something really fun and really different and do a live event. So here I am in my writing room. You can see my awesome globe map in the background where I put pins anytime I know a reader is from a particular country or in the U.S. state. You've got my crazy post-it giant things everywhere. If I could show you the rest of this room, my computer has all kinds of cords right now, but if I could show it to you, I would show you all kinds of craziness in here, because I'm in the middle of writing Bound by Prophecy, which is the third book in this series. So if you are new to me, if you are new to all of this, again, my name is Stormy Smith, and I write currently new adult, which means college-aged characters, fantasy, and paranormal. My books are urban fantasy, so they are happening in present day. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun. One of the things that I want to make sure that you know is that we have the ability to do Q&A tonight, and that's the goal, is to do Q&A. The whole goal is for us to talk about whatever you want to talk about, and that's a lot of fun. So make sure that you go over to the top of your screen. There's going to be a little grid of small squares. If you click on that grid and click on the Q&A button, then you'll have the right side of your screen should pop up with a field where you can ask questions. And the whole goal is for you to ask questions to find out whatever you want to know about me and the books and eventually each author. So I hope that you participate. I hope that you have a lot of fun. We're going to be doing giveaways all night long, and the way that you get entered in to win is to ask questions. So as we go tonight, whether it's just me or whether it's the guest authors, Alys Arden or Heather Hildenbrand, I will randomly choose people as I ask questions and get them answered, and we will award you free books, because if you're going to come to an author event, you should definitely get free books. So where should we start? Well, the first thing that we should start with is the reminder for you that it is Bound by Duty's birthday, and that means that today and for the next week, Bound by Duty will be free on all platforms. And this is a really big deal because I've never given this book away for free. I've done 99-cent sales, which sometimes can feel like you're giving it away for free, but not really. And it has been, the response has been amazing over the last 2 days. It's really been astounding. I'm sitting at the top 50 free books in the entire Kindle store right now, and I'm really blown away by the response I've gotten from teenagers to adults. Everybody's really excited about getting into this series, and I can't wait. So I showed you earlier, but this is Bound by Duty, and the follow-up book in the series is Bound by Spells. And the third book is Bound by Prophecy, and Bound by Prophecy is going to be coming out this November, as long as I get it done, which I will get it done. Don't worry, I will get it done. If nothing else, I am deadline driven. Have no fear. So let's dig in. I have some things I can tell you guys, but obviously it's more fun when you ask questions. And we do already have one question popped up here from Chantella, who, thank you for coming back again. She came to the session earlier today, and Chantella's question was how I plot since I don't outline. Oh goodness, you started me off with a hard one, Chantella. So I have this weird thing where if I try to outline, the muse has nothing to do with it. So I'll sit down, well, let me back up. When I wrote Bound by Duty, which was the first book, I didn't know how to write a book. I didn't know that I wanted to write a book until the story started writing itself in my head. And that sounds really strange, but it's really how it happened. And so I started writing, and I just kind of knew what was supposed to happen until I hit about 40,000 words. And P.S. Those 40,000 words were a disaster. But in my brain, it made all perfect sense. And when I hit 40,000 words, I was completely stuck. And so that's when I invested in said ginormo sticky notes. And I find that when I hit those blocks where I don't have writer's block, I have more like plotline block. And so I will put those sticky notes up everywhere, and I turn on music, and I pace, and I talk to myself, and it's kind of like a crazy person. But I'm able to kind of free flow and free write my way through it. And so that might look like a half outline. It might look like questions that are unanswered, characters that I need to develop. It's just kind of wherever my brain needs to go to get me jump started. What ends up happening is I end up trying to outline because I know that so many people do it and it works. But I get like 2 plot points into an outline, and the muse is like, boom, and we're over here. And new characters walk in, and we go different directions, and I had like all these plans, and then it doesn't matter anymore. So I try. So then when I started to write spells, I wanted to be more efficient because it took me the better part of a year to get duty ready because I had to do 4 drafts because, like I said, the first one was bad. So when I hit spells, I said, I'm going to be efficient, and I'm going to outline, and this is going to be great, and I'm going to save so much time. And I wrote this outline, and like it was okay, but like I didn't love it, but it made sense to me. And so I start writing the outline, and I get like 5,000 words, like 2 chapters. And the muse is like, nah, like I'm not interested. So I chucked the outline, and I just started free writing. And so I've just embraced the fact that that's how I function. And when I hit blocks, yes, I'll try to outline, but I always know I'm not going to stick to it. So that's a super duper long-winded answer, so I apologize for that. But it's not as easy to explain since there's not a really solid process. Okay, so we do have another question from Maggie. Maggie's fabulous. So since Bound by Duty is set while Amelia is going to college, what did I take from my own college experience and use in the book? So it's really interesting that you asked that, Maggie, because one of the major questions that people always ask me, and it was actually a question that I first got from a group of 7th graders that I was talking to at a middle school in Des Moines. One of the kids said, why would you put your character in a community college? 7th grader with like that kind of attitude. And I was like, whoa. I went to community college, which is probably why she did too. But if you back it up further than that, if you think about Amelia's character, and for anyone who doesn't really know the series yet, Amelia has been sheltered her entire life, and her dad has really kept her away from a lot of people. She's had very minimal interaction from a social standpoint, and she's gone through a lot. Her mom died, her dad's a little crazy. All she knows is she has to contain this ever-growing, uncontrollable power that's in her. And so the idea of going to a giant university, say University of Iowa, where you could have hundreds of kids in your classroom, for someone like that who hasn't really been exposed to that degree of people, that would be terrifying. And so when I was thinking about this, like, yes, I understood the mentality of a community college, but I didn't bring a lot of that into the book. It was more about the small classes and small environment and more of a relaxed environment. I kind of look at community college like it's high school plus, because when I went and I transferred from community college to university and a private university, it was like I got smacked in the face with real homework and real classes. So it is a different environment, and I felt like she needed a little less structure and she needed things to be a little more loose in order for the plot to go the way that it needed to. So I hope that that helps answer your question. As far as other college experiences, I would say Not really, outside of the fact that I did have her live in an apartment versus a dorm, because when I went to community college, it was not one that had real campus housing. And I appreciated the fact that just out of my parents' house, I was able to feel like an adult and function like an adult, even if I didn't fully have the mentality of an adult. And I wanted that for her too. I wanted her to have, you know, a space that was hers, that she could decorate, and that she would have an awesome roommate, and those were all things that I wanted for her, and so that was part of why I made that decision as well. So that is that. Okay, so what should we talk about? One of the things that I always like to tell people when I talk about being an author is that unlike so many people who say, I have been writing stories since I was 10 years old, and I would write books for school and all these, you know, wonderful stories. I never did any of that. I didn't know I wanted to be an author. I didn't want to be an author. I had a very defined life path, a career path. Like, I had the milestones all laid out, and I was accomplishing them. I knew from a really young age that what I wanted to do was lead a team in an ad agency. That's what I wanted to do. When I started at the agency that I worked at for 7 years, one of the things that I said to them in my very first performance review was, you know, the president of the company at that time, it was a small company, was doing the performance reviews, and he said, you know, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I said, I'll be leading a team. And he kind of laughed at me, but you can bet in 5 years I was absolutely leading a team. And so I was in public relations and media relations, and I really loved it, and that's played really well for me as an author, understanding how to market myself. But nowhere in there was me scribbling stories, me wanting to tell stories. Everywhere in there was me reading a lot and consuming umpteen books every week. But the story really just appeared for me, and I didn't look back. I embraced it, and I went with it, and now it's like full-bore crazy town author stuff. I ended up quitting that dream job, the one that I thought I always wanted, because I realized that I didn't anymore, and I didn't need it anymore, and that was a really big deal for me. I think a lot of people who were really close to me were probably kind of surprised by that, but they all saw how passionate I was about being an author. And so I still have a full-time job. It's just a job now that really pays the bills. It's not something that I'm super duper passionate about, because now my passion feeds here, and it feeds to you guys. One of my most favorite things about being an author is the interactions that I have with readers. I had this idea to do tonight and today's events because when I did a survey of my readers about 6 months ago as part of my grad school, I asked them, you know, how do you want to interact with me, and what do you want to know, and how do you want to do it? And they said, we want video, we want Q&A, we want one-on-one time with you. And so that's where this was born from, and hopefully you guys are having fun. It looks like we have another question. Why did I choose Northern California for the setting of Bound by Duty? I live in Iowa. It's so sad. I'm landlocked. I'm so far from an ocean. Like, it's so sad. I don't know how I still live here. It's mostly my husband's fault. But my mom's from California, and right now my best friend lives in California. And the idea of being so close to both the ocean and the mountains really resonates for me. I wish I lived there. And when I was writing the story, to be honest, the first draft of the story, Amelia had more of a tie to the ocean and to the natural elements, and that kind of weaved its way out throughout the drafting process, but it was a lot more important that it was set there to start with, and it ended up that it was set there because it was really just my passion point, and I love describing those places, and it just felt really right to me. And really, who wants to write about winter? Like, pull on your snow boots and put on your parka. Like, that's so not exciting. So I liked keeping it over there. And you'll find as you dig into Bound by Spells that that just travels further into the Pacific Northwest. And I visited one of my lifetime friends in Portland a few years ago and just fell in love with the Pacific Northwest. And so I wanted to keep everything there and to revisit those places and have an excuse to research them. So it was a lot of fun. Okay, so I feel like I have so much that I can tell you guys, but I just don't know where to go. I will tell you that in 15 minutes, Alys Arden is going to be joining us. And Alys is amazing. I met her at Utopia, which is a conference that I went to in June. And she is a girl after my own heart. She is a marketer by trade. She's an author in a way that, similarly to me, she stumbled upon it. And she lives in New Orleans. And her story is based around the legend and lore of New Orleans. And it's called The Casquette Girls, and you guys are going to love it. You're going to be really excited about it. So I hope that you stay for when Alys comes on at 7:30 because it's going to be good stuff. And it's only 15 more minutes. So you can hang out for 15 minutes. One of the things that I wanted to let you know if you are a Bound by Duty reader and you haven't visited my website is that at stormysmith.com, if you go to the Bound series and the Bound by Duty page, there is an offshoot to a alternate point of view scene that is from Aiden's perspective. And it's something that I wrote after Duty had published and for kind of an exclusive blog tour that I was a part of. And it was so much fun to write. And it was really what solidified for me the fact that Bound by Spells would need to be written in dual perspective, because the story just couldn't be told from one person. And kind of a sneak peek into Bound by Prophecy is that there will actually be 3 point of views in Bound by Prophecy. So you will hear from another of our characters and get inside their head and learn a little bit more about their backstory, and someone that I think you are going to be surprised, not by who I chose, but by what you learn. So I hope that you like that little teaser. Oh, this is such a hard question. Maggie, you're killing me. What are Amelia and Aiden's favorite books? I think, I've never thought about this, so I'm totally going off the cuff here, but I would say that Aiden would likely be more of a sci-fi guy. That dystopian, end of the world, extinction type thing. With everything that he's got going on, and I don't want to give away any spoilers for anyone who's on that has not read Bound by Duty, but with everything that's going on with him, and once you read it, you'll understand, he belongs in a world where he can be just really alpha. And yeah, I think that those would be something that he would be drawn to. That or more of the like heavy suspense thriller type books. Something that's a little more action-packed. With Amelia, I think it's going to be a combination of contemporary romance and actually, I think contemporary romance is where she's going to land. She clearly doesn't need to read about fantasy because she lives it. So I would say that those romance stories that resonate, that are real, that aren't real tropey, that's the kind of stuff that she's going to be drawn to. And she's also going to be drawn to stories that have a lot of family element to them because that's something that she's missing. So she's going to want to read about that and experience that through a different venue. So, Trisha and Jen, do you have a playlist or song that really resonated while writing the last Bound book? So it's funny that you should mention that, because typically, had you asked me before I finished the first draft of Prophecy what I liked to listen to while I was writing, I would have told you A, silence, or B, classical music, preferably piano-based. I could never write to words. Words were distracting, and they weren't inspirational to me. They were just really like, I couldn't get my mojo in gear when there were words to songs playing, because I'm so lyrically driven and I pay attention to the story in a song that I would get lost there and I would stop being lost in my own story. So that's what it was until Prophecy. But the last probably 25,000 words of Prophecy, as I was writing this first draft, I was like obsessed with Mumford & Sons. I hadn't really ever listened to them outside of what was on the radio, but I really love their new album. And so much of it, while it's appropriate for everyday life, I can just feel the spin that really ties to fantasy and really ties to my characters. Almost every song on that album fit one of my characters in some way, and it definitely fit what was happening in the book. It was really hard for me. I build playlists on Spotify for all of my books, and it was really hard for me to not put like the whole album on my Spotify playlist. But speaking of, you should check me out on Spotify because all of the book playlists are out there and they're public. You can follow them and listen to them and just get a different feel for what's in my head when I'm writing, because while I don't typically listen to them while I'm writing, it's all I listen to while I'm not writing. So anytime I'm in the car, anytime I'm playing music anywhere, it's always Spotify, and I'm always listening to the book playlist, just like waiting for that moment where it all comes to me. Let's see. Oh, this is a good question. Dina O'Neill. What would I say to someone who has not read my books to entice them to read them? I would say a few things, especially since you're asking, and I'm going to assume by your name that you're a woman. I do not subscribe to the belief that a woman's worst choice is two men. I hate love triangles. I mostly don't like books with them unless it's a really subplot type thing. And so when I wrote this book, I knew from the very beginning that that was never going to be an issue for me. And so while, if you read the back jacket, it talks about her losing her heart to a human and her being betrothed, those two things don't really have anything to do with each other in a romantic sense. And so what the triangle of my story is, Amelia is destined for something, and she really has a choice of whether or not she's going to embrace that destiny and fulfill the prophecy that has been set out. And she doesn't really have to. So her choice is, do I want the life I want, and the life I think I want, I should say, or do I do my duty, and do I do the thing I'm supposed to do? And that is her triangle. That is her ultimate choice. And I think what you will get in my book that I won't say you won't get anywhere, but that I think that you'll appreciate is that I delve deep into my characters. I delve deep into their emotional states. I delve deep into their relationships. I build secondary characters that you can't help but be just as consumed with as the first characters in the book, the main characters, and I weave subplots in a way that's very, I feel, intricate. I plant a lot of seeds that fulfill later in the story. And while there are times that, you have to do the standard world building and give the history, this is a fantasy book, I try to keep the story moving and I try to keep you really engaged and involved. And so if you want a story that's going to make you pay attention and really look for some of the subtleties, I think that you're going to find that in this series. One of the things that I'm most proud of is that I actually got a message from a therapist, from a psychiatrist, who found my book last December and found it on sale via a book club that I did, and she messaged me and she said she had been in this utter book slump and she found my book and she read it and got lost in the story, and that I had depicted the response to emotional abuse and abandonment perfectly in my characters. Their reactions and the way that Amelia and Aiden behave in their specific circumstances was exactly what it should have been. And some people like that or don't like that, but I worked really hard to make sure that my characters were very real and very relatable. And so if that's the kind of story that you enjoy, I think this series could definitely be for you. I hope that helps you out, Dina. And the good news is, I'll remind you, in case you missed the beginning, that Bound by Duty is free right now. So on all platforms, on Nook, Amazon, iBooks, and Kobo, and Smashwords, and everywhere I could get it, it is out there and it's free. So you can always check it out, and no harm, no foul. I hope you like it. So, oh my gosh, I did this in the first session, at the noon session, and I totally forgot to give away some books. So next person, next question gets a free ebook of Bound by Spells, because you can all get Duty for free right now. So my next question is from Annika Balzer. So Annika, before I answer your question, make sure that you email me at author.stormysmith, all one word, @gmail.com, and tell me that you want an ebook of Bound by Spells, and I will get that to you. And hopefully you go out and grab Bound by Duty, and you can enjoy the first two books in the series. So your question is, how long would I say a book should be in length, or how many chapters should it have? My first question back to you would be, what kind of book are you writing? Because it really does depend. In fantasy, people are looking for longer books only because you can't properly tell a fantasy story. You can't build a world and fulfill the expectations of readers of the fantasy genre in 60,000 words. That's just not possible. So my books generally, Bound by Duty was 84, and you can see, you know, it's not bad. Bound by Spells was 93,000. He's kind of a monster. Like, he's a little big. But that's what I needed to really tell the story. If you are writing in contemporary romance, you might be able to get away with a 60,000 word book. Or, I mean, you can still get away with an 80,000 word book if you want, but you can generally wrap a story like that a little bit faster because you are in a contemporary urban setting and you don't have to worry about all of this magic and history and where did the immortals come from and how did they get here and why do we have all this conflict and what all powers do they have and all of that stuff that you have to be able to explain when you're writing a fantasy. So I would say it all depends on what you're writing, and that's something that I would definitely toss into Google and see, you know, if you're writing suspense, it's probably different. If you're writing high fantasy like Game of Thrones, you know, those books are 1,000 pages each. So it all really depends. But I would say that write your story. And don't worry about how many pages it's supposed to be, because everybody reads on ebooks anyway. So if you want to write a contemporary romance and it's 100,000 words and they all are necessary and it's totally amazing and you had it edited and everyone believes in it and you believe in it, do it. Like, why not? I think you should totally do it. So I hope that that answers your question. And make sure you email me, Annika. Okay, I'm going to do one more question now, and I will come back to any questions that are out here after we have Alys on. So, oh, Marcy, I love you. So I have to say hi to my mom. Hi, Mom, because she's with her best friend Marcy, and they're in California, and Marcy just posted a question. So how did you come up with the dogs, and how are they? So for anyone who hasn't read the books, one of my sets of characters that are really amazing are Charlie and Onyx, and Charlie and Onyx are massively huge Great Danes who are an integral part of the story, and they just become more and more important. But they are magic creatures in and of themselves, and Charlie and Amelia have a really fantastic relationship, and they have a lot of interesting moments throughout Bound by Duty, and it just really gets richer through all three books, actually. And I can tell you all that have no fear, I did not kill the dogs. Don't worry. They are alive. They are fine. I finished the first draft of Prophecy, and everybody's good. So nobody worry that I harmed the dogs. There were no animals harmed in the writing of the Bound series. Okay. All right. It looks like I actually have 2 minutes, so we're going to do this again. Let's see if there's a question here. We have lots of comments. I mentioned that the Bound world will still be open after Prophecy. Any clues on who else's story I might delve into? So, no, I'm not telling, but I kind of know, like at least one of them. One book. Maybe a novella. I have some ideas, but I'm not telling. You have to come back. Stick with me. Stick with me, Maggie. We'll get there. Okay, so it's time to get Alys. So bear with me while I work my little techno magic and get Alys on the line with us, and we are going to talk about the Casquette Girls, and you guys are going to love this book. I'm so excited about this book, like I can't even tell you. So I'm going to dial her in. And hopefully this works. It worked earlier today, so it should work. Make sure that you keep asking questions. Go up to the little grid at the top of your screen. There are little squares. Click on that. Click on the Q&A. Make sure you're asking questions. We're going to be giving away Alys's books as we do Q&A, and I promise I'll do a better job about giving them away. I owe you guys some more books when we come back after her session to talk more about the Bound series. And feel free to ask questions about writing, about the writing process, anything you want to know, pretty much. I'm in. I'm here for the next hour and a half, so like, let's do this. I'm super pumped. We should have good fun. Let's see. Sometimes for some reason it's taken me 2 invitations each time to get them going. So stick with me, guys. Okay. Oops. Well, while we are waiting for her to join us, I will just do another question. And, oh, okay, she says that she's there, so let me do this one more time. Oops. I'm on like 3 screens. It's no big deal. We got this handled. Okay, so let's do another question while we're trying to get Alys going here. How many books do I write at one time? That is coming from Dina. Okay, wait. It looks like Alys is having some issues. Sorry about this, guys. Technology is only awesome as far as you can get it to work. Oops. Okay, she's reloading, so hopefully that'll work. So I'm going to answer Dina's question. And Dina, I can't remember if I've already given you something or not, but you're asking a really good question, so let's do this. You email me at authorstormysmith@gmail.com, and I will give you an ebook of spells, and hopefully you check out Duty, and we will go from there. I can only work on 1 book at a time because I have a full-time job, and I'm in grad school, which is really dumb, but they kind of happen simultaneously. So I really can only focus that much, but because I do put so much emphasis on marketing as well, then I really can't do any more than I'm really already doing. Let's see. Hold on 1 second. Oops. We're still trying to get her in. I'm not really sure what the problem is. So let's keep going here. What or who inspired the character Micah? So this is a really interesting question because I have characters that were truly inspired by people. Amelia is kind of inspired by me in some ways. Aiden is inspired in a lot of ways by my husband because I met my husband 3 months into college and we've been together since then, so 15 years. So that's like a lot of guy to be exposed to. And so I really pulled a lot of his character traits in a lot of ways because that's what I'm super familiar with. And Micah is one who really just showed up out of nowhere and just was who he was. Hold on 1 second, guys. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get her in here. And I have no idea what the problem is. So anyway, Micah actually is just, like I said, who he is, and he's always been who he is, and I've never been able to influence that. So he's one where he just showed up and stayed, and I can't really say much more about it, which is unfortunate because it would be way more interesting if I could. Hold on one second. I know this is probably really frustrating for you guys, but I'm sure it's frustrating for her too. I am going to try and invite her again. This worked perfectly earlier today, and I don't know why it's not working now. Okay, well, we are just going to have to keep going because, unfortunately, I'm still working on getting Alys in. I don't know what the problem is. So if you guys have more questions, please do ask. I'm trying to kind of bounce between helping her with our tech issues and also answering your guys' questions because I don't want this to suck for you. Multitasking. Woohoo! Oh, it sounds like she might be getting in. I'm getting Alys.
There you are!
Oh, no. Yay!
Sorry, I don't know why only that last link worked.
Oh, that's okay. You know, technology is only wonderful when it truly works.
It's true.
So, hello, friend.
Hi.
So what we are doing, I will give you a little intro and then I'll let you intro yourself. So we are chatting obviously books, and we're here for Bound by Duty's birthday, and I wanted you to come on and talk about the Casket Girls because A, I want to know more about it, and B, we should expose lots of other people to its awesomeness. So you tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, where you are, and then a little bit about the books.
Awesome. I'm kind of glad that tech glitch happened because I was really, really nervous about 6 minutes ago, and now I'm only kind of nervous. So, that like washed my brain out. So happy book birthday, first of all.
Thank you.
So my name's Alys, for everyone here that I don't know. I'm in New Orleans right now. I live in New Orleans, although I've lived in many places all around the country and all around the world. And this book, The Casket Girls, is my debut novel, and I will be giving some of these guys away. Stormy will be giving some away. I will also be giving away this fancy leather bookmark, and if you've read the book, you know its significance, and some cool swag stuff. For those of you who read the book, you probably know what this little card means. The book is about a 16-year-old girl named Adele who lives in New Orleans, and the book starts 3 months after the biggest hurricane has ever hit, has destroyed the city, and her and her dad are coming back after the evacuation. And the city's so destroyed and it looks so weird that she can't really tell when weird things actually start happening. So I don't want to give too much away because there is a bit of a mystery in the book. I originally wrote this book in real time online on Wattpad, if anyone here is from Wattpad, and also Book Country, another writing website where I've met many, many wonderful writers. I self-published the book, not knowing what I was doing at all, with no real commercial intent, and that was a very fun experience. And I actually sold the book to a traditional publisher earlier this year, so it's being re-released in November, which I'm very excited about, and it's why all my walls behind me are blank, because I had to take down all of my cover art, which is being revealed in 2 weeks, which I'm very excited about. And then the sequel, or book 2, will be coming out next year, and it is called The Romeo Catchers, and they're both based on urban legends in New Orleans.
Awesome. I love it. So since you have so much fun stuff to give away, and we're totally keeping you here for a whole half an hour, even though it was late, as long as you don't have anywhere to be. So I'm like gonna like close my eyes and randomly pick a question, and let's give them a book. How about, this is a fabulous question. Miriam wants to know, where did you get that awesome hat?
Hi, Miriam. Miriam is my editor at Skyscape. So.
Oh, you can't have the book, Miriam. You already have it.
Yeah, so someone else gets the book. I can't remember the name of the shop. I think I will email it to you, Miriam, but I got this hat last summer, and I can remember that because it's 1,000,000 degrees here, and I got this horrendous haircut, and it was the day before RT, which is a big book convention, and I was really, really upset. And I went and bought this hat, which is very warm, and I wore it anyway because I hated my haircut so much that I wore the wool hat. So now I love the hat, and my hair's grown out, so it's all good.
I think that's fabulous. So we're going to redo, and I'm pointing at Trisha and Jen. Trisha and Jen are two bloggers that I know. They basically, you give one of them a book and they share it, and like they do all kinds of awesome stuff most of the time. So let's do a book for them, and they wanted to know if any of your characters are inspired by real people.
I think a part of every character is inspired by real people or a real person. But I don't think any character of mine is specifically inspired by one person. So I think, you know, every boy that I ever had a crush on in high school or dated or was friends with, there is one little thing, you know, from that person in Isaac. Or, you know, I'm sure there are definitely some experiences that Adele's had that I had similar experiences to. Maybe I'll let you guys guess which ones were in reality and which ones weren't. But I get asked that question a lot. But I worked in coffee shops a lot when I was in high school and college, made a lot of cappuccinos in my day. So that's definitely one concrete experience that Adele and I share.
I like it. So Trisha and Jen, email me. You know how to find me, and we'll get you an ebook copy of the Casket Girls so that you have something fun. All right, Alys, should we do a swag pack or a print book next?
You're in charge of this.
Okay.
Glad I got the tech working.
So you're here.
Yeah.
I think, oh, this is a good one. Let's go with a print book, and for Miss Maggie. So I know Maggie personally, and she's amazing, and she has a book vlog, and so that would be a fun place for her to have a physical copy. So hers was the first question that popped up, and she says, what is your writing process like?
I think my writing process sometimes surprises people, but I'm very repetitious, so I kind of do the same thing every day. I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, which is the part that usually surprises people, and I like to be up before other people are awake and have the chance to contact me. I also like the feeling of being awake before my neighborhood's awake, because I live in the French Quarter in New Orleans, and it's a very lively neighborhood around the clock, but there is this brief window in the morning where it's usually not crazy, so I like to kind of be the first one awake. And I also kind of like going from this dream state of when I'm sleeping straight into this fantasy world, and I haven't thought yet about work or bills or people or, you know, any of those kinds of things. It's a little bit easier for me because once I really get my day going, it's hard for me to keep switching gears, and I don't like to multitask because I lose focus really easily. So I kind of do the same thing every day. I wake up at the same time. I write at one of 3 places, either at my house or 2 coffee shops that are kind of equidistant. And I just pick, depending on how much focus I need is where I go, and because one has internet and one doesn't. And then I just rotate. I'll do like 3 hours in one place and then a break and 3 hours in another place if I have that much time to write. Otherwise, it's just like, get it done right here in this chair.
I love it. It's so funny that we just met, but I feel like you totally are a girl after my own heart. Like, we have all of our marketing stuff, but like that all describes me so well. Like, I used to think I was a good multitasker, and I'm really just now, I believe I am highly distractible. And like, that's like, it's not multitasking when you like basically suck at doing everything because you're trying to do 15 things at once.
And I think you learn that as you go. You know, I feel like when I was younger, it was like, oh, this is so cool. Yeah, I can do 40 things at once. And you do, and you get it done. But you realize that in that what we are taught is an efficient way to do things is actually incredibly inefficient. And I think the more technology that comes into our lives just only exacerbates that. So I try to really, you know, start one thing, finish it, or get to a point where I'm not mentally into it anymore, and then move on to the next thing.
I am totally with you. Okay, so I have like a load of questions for you, girl. Like, they are popping up like crazy. So I'm just gonna start firing some stuff off here.
Okay.
I'm gonna guess it's pronounced Christy based on the spelling. Christy Herring wants to know if the book was partially inspired by Hurricane Katrina.
Good question. So the answer is definitely yes. I was not living in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina, which is the question that I get asked the most. But all of my family was. I was in New York, and I had been in New York for only a couple of years at that point. So I had to watch from afar, which was a very bizarre experience in itself. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what's happening to anyone. You can't get in contact with anyone. And all of my friends and family were here. But the book is actually based on many different hurricanes. Since I was born and raised in New Orleans, I didn't leave until I was finished college. And there were just many different storms from my childhood that definitely got incorporated into this book. And then the weirdest thing was, when I was writing the book, I was in New Jersey when Hurricane Sandy hit, which was like completely bizarre and like way too real life. And I actually wrote the chapter that takes place in Haiti with no electricity by myself in this apartment. And I hadn't spoken to anyone for 3 days. And it was the weirdest, like, serendipitous experience, I think, of the whole book. Yeah, it was a little bit too real to life, but I even remember before the electricity went out that a bunch of people on Wattpad were the last people that I had spoken to, like on Twitter, and then everything just went dark, and then I didn't have electricity for 2 weeks, and it was crazy. So many different hurricanes went into this book.
I bet you. Okay, that was an awesome question. Let's do a little swag pack giveaway to Kimberly Fry, who wants to know how your job in marketing helps you market your book.
Hi, Kim. Kim is one of my like original gangsta Wattpad friends. So,
whoop,
whoop. It's one of those things like I don't know how it helps me, and I'm sure it helps me with everything, because it's not something I can ever remove from my brain. It's been there. It will continue to be there whether I'm working actively in marketing or not. But I think that it definitely gives me an advantage as far as having a background in design and planning and strategy. And most people, when they find out that I work in marketing, they think I like design ads, but I actually did more of the consumer behavior part and the psychology and the data analysis, so the strategy part of it. So I think when I approach projects, no matter how artistic they are, I'm always kind of thinking of the long-term vision for the project, which is odd because this project, when I started it, I was not thinking that way at all. I was just like, I want something new to do, and I don't want to have to think at all. And that's
what were you thinking?
I know, and then you know, it turns into this thing. So I don't know if that answers the question, but you know, I think all the areas of design and outreach and channel strategy, you know, so planning against all these things and budgeting and all that like super boring stuff. I think
it's necessary. It's all super, super necessary for success.
Totally, absolutely. And I'm super grateful that I had that background, that I have that background. People think it's totally weird when they find out that I went to business school. So that was another thing that you and I connected on, Stormy. So yeah, I can never remove that part of myself, nor would I want to, but it's always there in the background.
Absolutely. So Kimberly, make sure you email me, author.stormysmith@gmail.com, and reference in your email that you want a swag pack, and I will hook you up with Alys, and we'll get that handled. So we've got that. So there were two questions that were kind of similar. One was from my buddy Kaylee Marco, who you met at Utopia, who's one of the Rebel writers, and she was asking your absolute favorite place to write, but I also want to pair that with, where did her question go? Rose City Child, I'm guessing that's her screen name, asked, are there specific places in New Orleans or anywhere else that you go to write or that inspire you to write? So I think those kind of all go hand in hand. You talked about a couple coffee shops. Like, what else is really like your spot or your spot for inspiration?
Yes, good question. So I do mostly write at coffee shops, and there are probably 5 that I really write at, and I don't know, sometimes I feel like I need to get out of my house because there's too many distractions here, and I don't know why. Maybe I studied a lot in coffee shops, so it's very easy for me to tune out ambient background noise, unless someone is like right next to me and they're having a really interesting or annoying conversation. I can generally tune it out, but I also do have my headphones in always, but that's also to get people not to talk to me. It's, I feel like, the universal sign of I don't want to talk to you.
Even if there's no music playing, they can just be in there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. I go to a lot of different places in New Orleans to be inspired. I mean, some of them have a direct correlation with the book. The main legend of the Casket Rolls takes place at a convent, which is very close to my house. So I go there pretty frequently, especially when I have people in town, because they always want me to take them there. Sometimes I will go sit in the cathedral and listen to organ music. There's also this amphitheater. For the people who have read the book, they know that Isaac and Adele have a scene in this amphitheater, and I won't give away what happens there. But it was a place where I used to go when I was a kid with my dad and watch street performers. That's something in the book that Adele says. So I'll go and sit there, especially at night. Like if I go see a movie by myself or a band, I'll go kind of decompress and just think about the night and the art or whatever. Or I'll go sit down by the river sometimes, but sometimes there's too many people there, so I'd rather run or something there. But yeah, those are a lot of places in New Orleans.
Yeah, so you were like bopping around, girl. Okay, so where was, I had a really good question I wanted to ask. Where did it go? It's hard. This little Q&A app is not as intuitive as one might think. So, okay, let's do another ebook giveaway, because I think I had written down for 5 for you, and I think we've done 2. So this is from Dauntless Indies, which is a book blog, I'm pretty sure. And I'm guessing you know them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it says, hi, Alys. First off, you look and sound fab. I highly agree. And her question is, where in the city are you? Oh, we just covered this. Are you most inspired to write? So done and done. Oh, Chantella wants to know who did your book trailers. And for everybody else who's watching, make sure that at some point you go to YouTube and check out the Casket Girls book trailers, because they're super awesome.
That is a very complicated question. So I did the book trailers, and it was an amazing band of misfits who contributed to the book trailers. And a lot of the people are New Orleans-based, Louisiana-based. A ton of the kids were from Lafayette that did a lot of the amazing parts. And then I'm not going to rattle off any names because I'm going to get them all wrong, and then I'm going to leave people out, and I'm going to be embarrassed. But if you want to contact me about anything specific, feel free. And then I had an amazing guy in North Carolina help me put it all together at the end and do the final editing and all of that jazz. But I'm glad that you've watched the trailer. It was an incredibly fun and creative experience, and I had never made a movie before, so there was a huge learning curve for me, and I learned a lot.
Yeah, I was so impressed with, like, you could tell that it was not just a bunch of random stock footage that you, like, melded together, and it was very production quality, so.
Thank you.
For sure. Okay, so I'm going to attempt this again, since the Dauntless Indies, I'm guessing, probably have your book, but I'm guessing that they've probably reviewed it. Let's say an ebook for Alexandra James. And she wants to know if you have ever met any fellow authors from Wattpad in person.
Oh, yes. And I actually want to know if I have the record for meeting people in real life from Wattpad. I am fortunate enough that I have to travel a lot for work, which has enabled me to meet a lot of people, and also I travel a lot because I love to travel. Alex Rosa, who's one of my best Wattpad friends, she's in San Diego. We've met multiple times in multiple cities. And Emma Leach, who writes the Dark series, she lives in the forest in France, and I visited her on a couple of occasions, and we'll be visiting her again in November, and she's a very, very good friend of mine. Lindsay and tons of people in the UK, and yeah, I have had the good fortune of meeting a lot of people in real life, and it does become this really special experience because meeting people online is amazing, and you really develop these kind of deep and personal relationships in the different social media platforms, and you're sharing your work and you're sharing your art and you're giving feedback, and you've never even met in person, and then when you do meet, you feel like you've known each other for years, and in some case you have actually known each other for years, and it just, it's like meeting a family member for the first time, which is a weird thought to have.
I totally agree. I had been basically best friends with Rebel Riders, like 5 girls and a guy, for 1.5 years before I met them at Utopia for the first time. And it was, people were like, my friends from, my real life friends, would say, like, was it awkward? And I was like, no, like, we're the same people that we are. It's probably a better build of a relationship than you would find anywhere, because you're not as afraid to just be yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would only be awkward if you were not being yourself in those online spaces, and then it was some kind of shocking reveal. But I haven't had that encounter yet, so knock on wood.
Perfect. So Alexandra, please email me at authorstormysmith@gmail.com, and we'll get you a swag pack of fun stuff from Alys. I'm going to break for just a second for like I call it my commercial break. So I know we have some readers here that don't know me or don't know my books. And so really quickly, you are here because it is Bound by Duty's first birthday. This is my book. It is new adult fantasy. It is free on all platforms right now, and this is her first birthday. I'm very, very excited. So this is a trilogy. Second book is Bound by Spells, and I just finished the first draft of the third book, which will be out in November, which is Bound by Prophecy. So if you enjoy clean new adult fantasy, I have one for you that's free. So no harm, no foul if you, for some reason, don't like it, but I think that you might. So we will dig back into Alys's stuff. I'm like scrolling through here. There's so many different things. Do you have any advice for other aspiring authors?
Yes. I always feel bad answering this question because I feel like it's an answer that a lot of people give. But I think if you're an inspiring writer, you should just write and not worry about what other people think, and write for yourself and do what your gut is telling you to do. And if you feel like you need more than that, or you're kind of at the next stage, I would say find a way that best suits you to get feedback for your writing. So whether that is showing it to your best friend or your sister or your mom, someone that is going to give you real feedback as objective as possible, and in a way that will suit you. So if you don't have a person in your life that you're comfortable doing that with, I definitely didn't when I started writing. You can join an online platform like Wattpad or Book Country. There's tons of them out there, and you can join anonymously. You can make up an alias. Do whatever makes you feel the most comfortable and confident to get that feedback. And then the other side of that coin is, when you get the feedback, you have to internalize it and filter it. So really, really be open to anything that people are telling you, but don't just change everything based on what people are telling you. So you really have to find that middle ground between accepting the feedback, the positive or negative criticism, and maybe even taking bits and pieces of that and changing it based on what your own insight is telling you. And Kim, I'm going to circle back to your original question about what I've learned or taken from marketing and advertising. And this is probably the biggest thing. When you work in advertising, and Stormy, I'm sure you could piggyback on this, all you do is take criticism. So whether it's from people, buying stuff, whether it's from creative directors, art directors, copywriters, strategists, account people, then the million people in the client and brand that you're working on, all you do is make things, and then people kind of tear them apart, and that's part of the process, and then you build it again, and then you tear it down again, and then you build it back up. So I have really thick skin, so it's not a problem for me to receive tons of feedback. There's over 6,000 comments on the Catholic Girls on Wattpad, which was only up for the year that I was writing it, and people always ask, how did you deal with that deluge of feedback? And that is always my answer. So you have to kind of figure out a way to sort it in your head, but that would be my advice. Long answer.
No, I feel like that's a really great answer, and I think it's really important. I would tack onto that you know how your characters are going to grow and who they're meant to become. And so I think it's really important that when you write a story that you do get that very honest, very critical feedback, because you need it. But there's also a time and a place where you say, you don't know what I know. And that's okay for you to stand strong in your gut and in your belief of where your story is going. So I think that was a really important part of your explanation. Awesome question.
Awesome question. I like how it's become Twilight now.
I know, you have this very blue glow thing happening. Okay, here's an easier one from Shauna Johnson. Wants to know, where have you lived in the world? Because I know it says in your bio that you have kind of been everywhere.
I have not been everywhere. I have lived in New York for many, many years. I've lived in Australia and in London, and I've spent a lot of time in Sweden because I work for a company based in Sweden. I think I've worked in 14 different countries, not living in any of them for extensive periods of time, and traveled to many, many, many more. So yes, all those English-speaking countries.
It is a little easier to hang out in the English-speaking countries.
A little easier to work in them.
Yeah. Okay, so Trisha and Jen want to know if there are any other genres that you have considered writing in.
Definitely, and I definitely plan on it. And Stormy, you and I were talking about this recently. I am in the process of writing my second book in this series, and there will be more there as well, which I haven't said out loud. But I don't know yet if the next thing after this or during this will be either a horror book or a contemporary YA book. It's either going to be one or the other, totally opposite direction.
What mood are you in today?
Exactly. So I have this idea cooking for this, and I don't even know if, it's horror. It's horror with romance, which is kind of weird. thing cooking in the back of my head right now that I'm very excited about.
I love it. Okay, so let's do one more ebook. And Alex Rosa, is this your friend, Alex?
Yes.
Alex, you can't have an ebook. You probably already have the book, but I'll still ask your question because it is good. Do you plot? And if so, how intense is your plotting process? And I have a feeling you just got set up.
Yes. So, I don't know if I have one answer to this question. I can easily say that I did not plot at all while I was writing the first book because I was just having fun when I was writing it, so I was not taking it very seriously. Not to say that plotting is what makes you a serious writer, although I always feel like there's that impression. The only thing I knew about the Cascat Girls when I was writing it was the ending. And I knew, which I can't say, which is really awkward, so I knew the ending and I just had to work towards that, and then many, many, many pages and chapters and characters and subplots and twists it took to get there. And now that I'm writing the second book, I am tending to plot a little bit more just because I am looking at that like second book arc and how it goes into the next one. But I don't have an outline. I feel like the outline and the plotting are the things that tend to go together, and it's just impossible. So I have documents that kind of talk about every one of my plot lines and like where that plot line goes and how it potentially intersects into other plot lines. And then I do all this stuff and then I basically throw it away and I start writing and I just have a little like plot of that one chapter. And so they're more like exercises, I guess. So I don't know. I think in the first book it's definitely pantsing all the way, and maybe it'll always be like that, you know, and as you go on it's, I don't know, it requires a little bit more structure, but I was thinking about structure all day today, so if, you know, that sort of thing makes you a plotter as well, and I guess I'm a little bit of both.
So again, girl after my own heart, I actually just saw a tweet come through. Someone asked me, what are these big posters behind me? And it has to do with exactly what we were talking about, because I absolutely pantsed my way through Bound by Duty, and I attempted to plot Bound by Spells and failed epically miserably. So like there are 2 pages behind me and there are 5 more that you guys can't see, and those are all my pathetic attempts at plotting that my story does not look like any of them. Like maybe 1 point off of each of them made it somewhere.
I have a whole wall over there that no one will see of those giant posters that are on your wall.
Yeah, so I'm with you, and sometimes you just gotta let the muse do what the muse does.
Yeah, you can't really fight the way that it wants to go.
Agreed. Okay, so I think we have time for like one more question. Looking for one that we haven't had before. Let's see here. There's lots of comments in here, so you should make sure you look in the Q&A thread, because like people are just chatting you up. So that's why I'm sitting here like staring and scrolling, because I'm like, oh, like they just love you. Like no big deal. So let's say, oh wait, that's not actually a question. We'll go back to Miriam, because I think this is a really fun question for people. And it is there any one book, YA or otherwise, that's really influenced your writing style? And she included a smiley face, so I think you may have gotten set up there too, but I am intrigued by this answer.
Influenced writing style. I have it right next to me. I think that this is a book that I've read multiple times in multiple stages of my life, and I think it was one of the first books when I was like a preteen. I don't remember the first time I read this book, but I definitely connected with books when I was a kid. But I feel like when I first read The Outsiders, like this was the YA book that I remember the most reading as a kid, and kind of just like reading it in different phases of my life, and it like always having new meaning to me. And I don't know if I could say that it influenced my writing style, but I would think so, just because it had such an impact. on my life, and this other book, which I've actually had to buy a new copy because I've read it so many times it fell apart. The Confederacy of Dunces, which anyone from New Orleans has definitely read. It's my favorite book ever. I don't know if it would be like really bad of me to say that it's influenced my writing style, because he has like a really, really rambly way of writing, so maybe that's a yes too.
Wait, so how long is Cascat Girls again?
It's pretty long. But yeah, those two books, and that's really from the YA perspective, Outsiders, but Pony Boy's super introspective take has always kind of stayed with me, for sure.
I love it. So I will say our time's basically done, but there's not a good way in the Q&A app for you to respond directly to people, but if you want to essentially post a question and put their name in it, I would say everybody who's watching, like, keep watching the feed, because there were a lot of, I think, shorter answers you could give that we didn't get to in the Q&A that people were interested in.
I'm assuming I'll understand this Q&A thing when I log out and go back to the YouTube page, but I will, if anyone's left questions or comments here on Facebook or wherever, I will answer them. Thank you for coming, guys, and it was awesome to meet new people. I'm also going to give away another copy of my book on Facebook after the party's over, because I want to stay and watch the rest of the party. But yeah, so anyone wants to head over to my Facebook page, going to give away some more stuff in honor of Stormy's birthday.
Yay! Thank you so much. It was so much fun to have you, my love. It was fabulous, and I hope you guys stick around. We're going to start talking Bound by Duty again. But yes, I'm going to hit the hang up, but stay with us.
Bye!
Bye, babe. Ooh. Okay. All right, perfect. Okay, guys, I hope that you had so much fun chatting with Alys. She's so amazing, and I have really enjoyed getting to know her. I met her at Utopia in June, and she has been utterly fabulous. So we are back to questions about Bound by Duty, and I know there's some like woven in here. I know that Alys had a lot of questions, but I'm going to give you guys, I know there's a lot of new people in here that I don't know, so I'm going to give you a quick update on who I am and why you're here, and then feel free to ask me any questions that you want. So I am Stormy Smith. It is Bound by Duty's first birthday. This book is clean, new adult fantasy, and the quick and dirty synopsis is that Amelia is 18 years old. She has lived a life in which her mom passed away when she was a baby. Her dad went a little crazy, and she knows that she has power, and she knows that she is tied to a specific destiny. But what she doesn't know and doesn't understand is why her dad keeps telling her she cannot use this power. She has to control the power. She has to tamp it down. And she finally has a chance to get away and go to college and have a little bit of normalcy to her life. And she meets this amazing Southern best friend that is this feisty, free spirit that is a really integral part of the book. And she also meets Aiden, who is the romantic interest. I will say that the romance in this book is a subplot to the coming of age story that is really Amelia and her choices as her power grows fairly exponentially, and she finds out more and more about who she really is and what her place in this immortal society truly is meant to be. And it all comes down to a choice for her. And if you didn't hear me earlier, I have a fundamental issue with love triangles, and so this book does not have a love triangle. Her triangle is the choice between the life that she believes that she wants and the life that she is dutifully bound to, and the crux of the plot is what will she choose and all of the factors that lead up to that decision. So right now, Bound by Duty is free on all channels, so I hope that you guys check it out and come back and tell me what you think if you did. In the meantime, let's answer some questions. So I'm going to start randomly scrolling through here as well. So the first question from the lovely Cassandra, who is my eventual sister-in-law. How would I feel if someone asked to make my books into movies? I would probably like run laps around my house with my hands in the air screaming is probably what I would actually do. Books being made into movies is a really interesting process because it really is essentially, from what I understand, someone comes to you and says, I want to buy the option to make your book into a movie, and I will give you X number of dollars to put it on my shelf, and nobody else can make it, but I don't have to make it. So I find that to be a little bit of a scary prospect. That's why I explained it, because I would get so excited, but then to just have it sit on someone's shelf. Ugh, I don't know. I think that would be heartbreaking. So I think I would have mixed emotions about it, but at the end of the day, I believe that I built a story that people could see and would love to see on the screen. I see words in my mind in such a vivid way, and I feel like I try to bring that clarity to the story. And so that is one of the comments I get on my books a lot, is that they feel like they can watch the movie in their head because I've given them that amount of detail, and that's something that I'm actually really proud of. So wonderful question. I'm going to scroll here because I left a lot of Elise's questions up. Millie Eckhart, this is a wonderful, sarcasm, but also question that I think is fantastic. And for it, I will say, if you are still on, Millie, I would love to give you an ebook of Bound by Spells, which is the second book in the series. So I hope that you go out and grab Bound by Duty. And if you email me at author.stormysmith@gmail.com, I will get you an ebook of Bound by Spells, because I absolutely agree with this statement, which is, don't you think plotting is like dieting? It's made to be broken. Amen, sister friend. I think that you have to just do what the story tells you needs done. And for people who are authors, I realize that's probably a really strange statement when I talk about the muse and this other kind of person who lives in my head, but I very much write in a fugue state kind of way, where if I can really zone into the story and I can allow it to just drive me, there are days where I can spend 4 or 5 hours at my computer, crank out thousands of words, and by the end of it, I'm exhausted, but I get up in the morning and I have no clue what I've written. I go back and reread it, and it's like I'm reading it for the first time. Like, I don't even realize the choices I've made and what I've done, and that's part of why I think I can't plot, because I just really let the creative spirit in me do what it needs to do. And the words are all in there. It's just my job to get them out. And so I very much agree, and I love the sentiment that plotting is like dieting. Well done. Well played. Let's see here. So Nina asked, how do you think of your story ideas? So for me, the Bound story was really inspired by another series. Rachel Higginson, who is a mentor and friend of mine, and who started out an author I found because her books were free or 99 cents on Nook, like a million years ago when Nook first came out. And it was a huge, huge deal, and ebooks were really just starting to take off. Rachel's books were one of the ones that I bought first, and I fell in love with the Star-Crossed series, and it's something that I've read over and over and over. And I had just reread it for the 4th or 5th time. I was driving to Omaha, and I was alone in the car, and I just started asking myself what if questions. You know, what if the story would have gone this way instead of that way? And what if she would have had these powers instead of those powers? And so all of these questions really led me to forming my own plotline and my own characters in my head. And so literally the story started writing itself in my mind. I was like grabbing my phone and voice messaging myself these words as they were just churning through. And I found that the longer I write, I know that I'm on the right track when that happens. So I was talking in the afternoon session about the fact that for my readers who know the story and are listening, I'm going to finish Bound by Prophecy, obviously, but that arc will finish the 3-book series, but this world will continue on, and I will write more books in the Bound series, but not right now. And part of the reason I know that is what I should be doing is because I was driving to work, and like Alys was talking about, you know, the morning is the best part of the day because nothing has interrupted your mental flow. You haven't worried about bills. A lot of times you haven't even spoken to someone. It's a really great time for ideas. And the idea for a new adult contemporary romance came to me on my way to work. And it wasn't just like this flit of an idea. It was full blown, like, I know exactly what the first scene of the book is. The words started churning. I know what the characters are named. I know what the main conflict of the book is. Like, it was all just there, and I couldn't stop it. And that's when, to me, I know I'm on the right track and I'm writing the right story. So my ideas come from a lot of places. They are spurned from books and just sheer observation of people from other movies, other books. I feel like there's a story you can find in everything if you allow yourself to look that hard. And if you try to be present in the moment that you're in, which is increasingly more difficult as we are more and more connected. So Nina, I hope that answered your question. Let's see here. Scrolling. So Shauna asked a really great question earlier that I didn't get to before we brought Alys on. And that was, how do I keep my writing life separated from my family life? Because I told you guys that I have a full-time job and I'm in grad school and I'm married. I don't have kids, which I will say that helps a lot. Excuse me, my husband can be fairly self-sufficient, so that, he doesn't need me like a kid would. But I would say that the reality is that I can't keep them separate. I mean, if we're going to be utterly honest, like my husband would be standing behind me nodding, that I can't keep them separate because so much of this job is being socially connected to your readers, because I am indie published and I do not have a traditional publisher standing behind me, and I don't have anyone helping me gain exposure outside of me. And I'm not big enough yet that I can hire a publicist full time. So I have to do all the work. I have to be connected to my readers. I have to set up events like this one and have fun people like Alys and Heather will be on in about 10 minutes, come and visit. And so there's a part of me that's never not connected to this. But I do have to make a concerted effort to, put down my phone, silence the devices so that the notifications stop, and try to decompress. And so it is very much a conscious effort. It is not something I can do unconsciously anymore, because unconsciously I want to stay connected. So that's probably the hardest part of going on this journey, is trying to find that balance between professional me and grad school me and wife me and friend me and author me and marketer me and all of those things. You have to really work at it every day. And that's something that I'm always trying to work at. So thank you for your question. Let's see here. Scrolling. This Q&A app is really interesting because people just pop in at weird places and the questions don't jump in here in order. Trisha and Jen want to know if I plan on jumping right into writing my next book. I picked this question actually because it is perfectly aligned with the question that I just answered. And the answer to that is no, but. So my husband, because he's utterly patient and super, super supportive, understands how much I give to this job and how much I give to being an author and how much of a dream it is for me. But he also sees that some days I'm a crazy person. So we have the agreement that when Prophecy releases in the early to mid-November timeframe, that I will take from then to the end of the year off, which is only, 6 or 8 weeks. Now, the but is I can't really stop my brain from functioning. So I have a feeling that I will continue to work in a way that is just not deadline driven. And that is an entirely different thing than working on a deadline. I gave myself a July 1st deadline for the first draft of Prophecy. And the previous 7 days to July 1st, I had bronchitis and I was literally dead to the world. And when I came, I wasn't even all the way healed and back yet. And I was like, I have to finish this book. So there's a certain amount of that even though they're my own personal deadlines, it's important to me that I fulfill my obligations to myself. So by saying that I will take until the end of the year off, that will just be allowing me to write at whatever pace I want. And I think that that's going to be good. And I think that this romance is going to be a lot of fun to write. And it will be nice to not build a world that's full of fantasy and magic and immortal races and things that I have to completely build out, and more just really talk about a love story that is college and new and fun. And I don't know, I think it'll be a lot of fun. So thank you, Trisha and Jen. So let's see here. Let's give away another ebook. I'm sucking, you guys. You got to remind me about this stuff. Sleepy Wired Studios. I don't know who you are. Welcome. I'm going to give you an ebook of Bound by Spells. So email me at authorstormysmith@gmail.com. It's all one word, authorstormysmith
gmail.com or add me on Google Plus, and like we can go from there. But you can get Duty for free, and I'll give you a free copy of Bound by Spells. And your question is, let's see. Oh, when I write, do I visualize the world I'm writing about? Absolutely. Like, I don't know if I could not do that. Someone asked me in the earlier session, you know, why did I choose Northern California as the place that I wanted to set Bound by Duty? And I think it's because it's a place that I'm drawn to. You know, people post pictures all over Pinterest, and like those are the kinds of pictures, those mountains and oceans pictures are the ones that I'm really drawn to. And so for me to write as descriptively as I want to write, I have to be able to see these things. And so I do look at a lot of pictures. When I wrote Bound by Spells, it's set in the Pacific Northwest, and I did a lot of Googling and Google Earth mapping and making sure that, you know, if you live in the Pacific Northwest, anywhere near the Olympia Mountains, like I want you to be able to read this book and feel confident that I have described your home appropriately. And that's, I think, your duty as an author. Even when you're writing fantasy, I think that it's your duty as an author, if you're going to put something in a real place, that you describe it appropriately. Brighton, which is the town that Bound by Duty is set in, is not a real place. Well, it might be, but I don't think so. So that I did make up, but the elements of, you know, the ocean and in the mountains that are in Gualala, which is a scene that we have, you know, those are things that I did look up, and I did make sure that I was describing appropriately. So it is very important to me to really visualize what I'm writing about and where I'm writing. So thank you for that question. So, oh, my best friend Christina's on. Hello, lovely. She said, are the characters in my story based on real people? Now, I lost her question because this app is really weird and it moves stuff around. So let me find it really quick so I can mark it as being answered. So are they modeled at all after real people you know or have known? So that's kind of a loaded question, in part because, as Christina knows, Bethany is the best friend in my story, and Bethany is very much a combination of a lot of the best friends in my life, but probably her main characteristic is that she's Southern, and the lovely Christina is as well. And so Christina gets a lot of text messages from me that say, what's a Southern way to say this? And I've had some people question some of the phrasing that I use and some of the kind of quirkiness of Bethany, and I pull a lot of that from Christina or from things that I verify with her that would be accurate. So that definitely happened. But then Amelia, in a lot of ways, is modeled after me as far as kind of how she looks and some of her behaviors. Aiden, in a lot of ways, is, well, so this is weird. So Amelia and Aiden are very much in the beginning modeled after me and my husband, because I've been with my husband since I was 18, and so that's 15 years of kind of knowing the same dude and like being able to pull some mannerisms, whether I meant to or not. Sometimes I did. But that was really only in the first quarter of Bound by Duty. And as we have gone, they have really become themselves, and they aren't like us anymore. And I think that's a difference in the beginning. I didn't trust myself. I didn't know how to be an author, and I didn't know how to describe people who don't exist. And so I had to give them traits that belonged to people that I knew, because how else was I to feel like those were real and believable and tangible? So they started out modeled after people, but they didn't end up that way, I guess, is the moral of the story. And really only Amelia, Aiden, and Bethany started from other people. Everybody else was just who they were when the muse planted them in my head. If that makes sense. It probably doesn't. It's kind of weird. It's kind of crazy to have a muse. So thanks, C, for that. It is 8:27, which means that in about 3 minutes, Heather Hildenbrand is going to be coming on. I'm going to give you guys a quick reminder, in case anybody has joined, that Bound by Duty is free right now on all platforms. So if you haven't checked it out, you can get it on Amazon, Nook, Kobo, iBooks. The last time I looked, I was so excited because I am in the top 50 free books of all of Amazon right now. People are just gobbling this book up, and it's so exciting. I've never given it away for free before, and the first birthday seemed like the absolute
most perfect time. So thank you guys for coming and for being here and for asking amazing questions. And I hope that you stay on for Heather, because she writes some really amazing stories, and one of her series was actually optioned for a TV series, and she just knows what she's doing. So she will be a really fun person to ask a lot of questions to. And I hope that you stay on. I did notice that Sleepy Wired Studios, you asked if I could repeat the email address, and it is author Stormy Smith, all one word, @gmail.com. So please make sure you email me and reference the prize that you won. I believe it was an ebook of Bound by Spells. I'm giving away so much stuff that I can't keep it all straight. So please remind me and we'll get that taken care of. So let's see if there's another quick question that I can answer. Somebody asked what the best thing about Utopia was. Shauna Johnson asked that, and I can answer that very quickly. There were a lot of amazing things about Utopia, but the number one, hands down, best part of it was that I have written with the same writing group, the Rebel Writers, for the last 2 years now, and year and a half, and I had never gotten to meet them in person. And Utopia was the first time that all 6 of us were in one place as humans and not online personalities, and they were exactly who I thought they would be, and they were amazing women and a man. And I also got to meet a lot of my street team members for the first time. We had one of the girls come all the way from Canada. It was utterly amazing to have people who have been such an integral part of my success and my support system and my foundation to really be able to do this and live this life. It was really, really awesome to have them all in one place. So that is the answer to your question, Shauna. Now, it is time for me to dial in Heather. So last time we had a tad bit of issue with the technology. I'm hoping that we are all good this time. But let's see here. Give me 2 seconds while I send her a message and let her know I'm dialing her in. So hopefully this works. And while she's connecting, let me see if there's another quick question I can answer. You guys are posting such awesome comments, so thank you so much for hanging out and being fantastic. Maggie asked if I read mostly in fantasy paranormal and what my other favorite genre is, and I would say I do read mostly fantasy. I enjoy some contemporary romance, but I can only take so much of it before I'm like, yeah, like I can pick out this plot a million miles away. So I would say that is my second favorite, but only for small duration. And then my third favorite would be more of a suspense read. I really enjoy Patricia Cornwell writes a forensic medical examiner series, and very like Criminal Minds-ish, and that's a really fantastic series. But, you know, you can always throw me a Nora Roberts book, and they're totally formulaic, but I still love them because we all love Nora Roberts. Like, you just kind of can't not. So that is my genres. Let's see, hopefully, I'm still looking here to see if we are getting Heather. So I'm still working on it. Bear with me, guys, and thank you for that. Sorry guys, too many windows open, trying to make sure that we're all set here. This Google Hangout thing is kind of tricky. I'm sending her a quick email, so hold please. We figured out with Alys when we were having some issues that she could use a link, so I'm trying to get that over to Heather just in case the invite is not popping up. Oh, I think she is. Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry I'm late. My internet decided to be weird right now, of course.
No problem at all. If you can, I'm going to see if I can control your microphone, but if you can turn it up a little bit, do.
Sure, I just did. Is that better?
Yeah, that is good. That is better.
Awesome.
Fabulous. So welcome. I will give you the kind of rundown before we give it to everyone else that there should be on the left-hand side of your screen a little blue Q&A button. And if you pop that open, you'll see the questions and answers on the side. There are tons of stuff in here, and you don't have to keep track of this. I will, but I just wanted you to know where the Q&A thread is. And for everybody else who is posting questions, since we do have so many up there right now, if you could put Heather's name in front of your question, that'll make it a lot easier for me to find her questions, since there's all kinds of stuff kicking over here. But welcome, Heather. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. I was actually listening in and watching with you, and was it Alys was on last?
Yep.
Yeah, tons of fun. And I saw how quick the questions were moving and stuff, so it was awesome.
Yeah, we had lots of fun stuff happening. So let's start with a quick intro. Tell us, I know you're in a fun place, so tell us where you are and tell us a little bit about your books that we're going to be focusing on tonight.
Sure. Well, I am the mostly young adult author of about 10 or 12 books out now. And I am a full-time author, but I also do coaching, which is where I basically teach other aspiring up-and-coming authors to build it into a full-time income style business like I have. And basically tell them all the things that I wish people had told me when I started. And then I also co-own a small publishing company that we just started up about a year ago. So that's exciting. So I'm splitting my time between a lot of things, but they're all things that I love a lot. So it's just really fun. Every day is really fun. And where I live is fun. I live half the year right now in Guam, where my husband is stationed for the Navy. And then the other half I live in Virginia with my kids, where they stay for school. So I say I commute. It's just a long commute.
So what time is it for you right now?
Yeah, it's 11:30 in the morning on Friday morning for me.
So I was right when I said you live in the future.
I live in the future. Yeah. I always joke and tell everybody, like, you know how they say, like, tomorrow is never promised, but it is. It's coming. I promise. I'm here.
You'll let us know if something's going down and, like, tomorrow's not on the way.
Exactly. When you stop hearing from me, you know we're not getting it tomorrow. Yeah.
Fantastic. So talk to me a little bit about the series that you write.
Okay, well, I have a couple. Dirty Blood was my first, kind of like my breakout series. I think that's how a lot of people got to know me. And that is young adult, and it's werewolves. So it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of action. And I joke, it's not entirely a joke, that when I get stuck on a plot line, especially in that series, I kill someone. That's my way out. And it's fun. It's romance, but it's just got a lot of action, and I love it. And that series is complete now. The 5th book came out in March, so it's done. Bittersweet. And then the second series I have is called Imitation, and it's about clones, which is funny because that means it has to be called sci-fi, but then I always sort of like qualify that with, I don't actually really love sci-fi. I don't actually explain anything because I don't go into like the science and the technology. Like, it's really just about a girl who falls in love with a guy who rides a motorcycle. That's what it's about.
Oh, well, so I do need to read it then.
You do need to read it, yeah, because people hear it, especially young adult. There's not a huge, I don't have a huge sci-fi following. My fans are all paranormal and romance and all that, and so they would go, "Oh, sci-fi," and I'm like, no, it's not really though.
Just joking.
Just joking. It's motorcycles. It's cute boys. You're gonna love it.
Fabulous. I love it. So during the next 25 minutes or so, we are going to be giving away a couple of the Dirty Blood box sets, is what I know, for ebooks.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's got the box set, just because the last one just came out and I haven't read on the box set yet. So the box set has the first 4 books in it.
Perfect.
But they're all 4 all in one. Yep.
Awesome. So kind of how this works for you is I'll scroll through and kind of just like close my eyes and pick people to answer their questions, and also to assign some fun prize winnings. So we will just get going because I've already seen a ton of questions pop up with your name on them. So let's see. Christy wants to know which series you would recommend as the first read for someone who has just discovered your writing.
Oh, well, I mean, all of them at once, duh.
I mean, really? Like, why wouldn't you just buy all of them?
I mean, I guess it really depends on what you like to read, you know. Dirty Blood's more paranormal. Imitation, like I said, it has a little twist of sci-fi. It actually probably feels more dystopian though than anything. If you I don't want to say Hunger Games. It's not futuristic. It is set now. It's very like conspiracy theories. So maybe something like that, or like a Shatter Me series. That's sort of what inspired me to write that. So it really depends on what you like to read. I love series. I would say one of my series would be it. I love getting invested in characters and following along with them. So either one of those, whatever sounds better to you, I guess.
Awesome. I think those are good qualifiers to say, kind of if you like this, then you'll probably like this one.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, all right, let me scroll here. There's like no rhyme or reason to how this Q&A app functions. So they just like throw questions in the middle and then they disappear while I'm searching for them. And it's like Google's got to really get their act together here.
I know. I saw that earlier. I was like, oh, I can't follow that.
No. So Kaylee Marco is one of my lovely Rebel writers. And Kaylee wants to know what your writing space looks like or what your favorite place to write is, if those are different.
Oh my God, that's so funny because I was actually just sort of complaining to my husband right as we were setting up the computer for this little video. I don't have a writing space, which that's not what I'm complaining about. I write somewhere different all the time, which is awesome because I am usually always living somewhere different. So I don't have an actual space, but that means I don't have a space. Like Stormy, your background looks really cool. You have some plotting going on. You have a world map with all these pins. It's really cool. And I don't have a certain space, and so every time I do anything video, I'm always starting from scratch, going, put my computer here. Okay, check the lighting. Okay, what's behind me? Is this gonna look weird? Like, make sure I don't have dirty laundry and like my kids back there, and so I can't face that way. So I'm always figuring it out, which is, that was the part I was complaining about. So I don't have a space, but when I write, that's fine with me because I like changing it up. In fact, that's one of the things I say when writers talk to me about, when they get stuck creatively, like they have writer's block, or even if they have an outline and they don't know what to write next, or feel bored or whatever, I'm like, change where you sit. Either leave your house or just sit at your table instead of your couch or whatever you do. And it's so interesting how that changes your mindset. So I try to do that on purpose. Most days in this house, though, I sit at the kitchen table because it's right by like the big window, and like my view out of my back door is like palm trees and jungle, and like it's cool. So I like this spot.
I love it. I actually experienced this in a strange way. Like it wasn't intentional, but I was trying to really plow through a lot of Bound by Prophecy's first draft, and I was in a summer grad school class, and I would get out of work and have 2 hours before I had class. And so I would go to Caribou and just like put in my headphones and work, and I don't normally work from there, and I would get like 1,500 words in an hour and a half, and I was like, where is this coming from? Like, I want to come here every day.
Yeah, isn't that funny? So for you, it's getting out into a coffee shop then, or like out of your house. Do you think
Yes.
that was more of what it was? Yeah.
Yeah.
In here. Well, I mean, that's just because we have distractions at our house. Like when you are not creatively, in the zone. I don't know about you, but for me, I'll like look around and I'll be like, oh, I need to do the dishes. I'm not doing dishes, or like stuff I don't even want to do. I'm like, oh, I have to do that first though, and then you just get distracted and go.
Yes, or you get lost in Facebook land.
Yeah, and so actually it's really like a mind trick, I think, for me. When I go out to coffee shops and stuff, I turn my Wi-Fi off on my computer and I just tell myself I can't get online here because I'm in public. Now I know they probably have Wi-Fi, but I just tell myself, nope, there's we don't get online out here. So, and then that helps. Like you said, turn that off. Don't think about all those distractions when you write captions.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's do our first giveaway. So I'm like just gonna scroll, and the first one that says Heather is getting a book. Okay, so Anika Balzer, I think if I said that right. So Anika, you get the first 4 books in Heather's series. So if you email me, I will sort this out for you, and it's author Stormy Smith, all one word, at gmail.com. So please email me, and we'll get to your question, which is, did you always want to be an author?
No.
Yay, me neither.
I mean, I don't think many authors knew they wanted. Well, because I didn't know that was a thing. Nobody told me that was one of the choices. So no. I was picking from all the choices. You know, my parents told me, "Oh, you like to argue. You should be a lawyer." So for a long time, I thought I should be a lawyer. Not that I wanted to, but that I should be. No, I mean, there was always a slew of other things. I wasn't that kid that my whole life I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this one thing. I don't know, but it definitely wasn't an author because I just didn't know that was a choice, which sounds so basic, but that's one of my messages now when I go, like, I'll go to my kids' schools and talk to their classes about writing stories and being an author and what that means. And I tell them the bottom line is, you know, you can do this too. This is a choice, you know, because nobody, when they're in school telling you, pick something, you know, you could be a fireman or a teacher, or like all these great jobs, but they're very, I don't know, they're very, I guess, recognized in corporate America as a job, and this just isn't. It doesn't make the list, and that's sad. So I wish someone had told me it was a choice, and I would have started so much sooner.
Yeah, like authors is like what people make fun of. They're like, oh, you're gonna go be like a penniless author? I'm like, no, I
don't do like in the, I guess the generation before ours, I find that it's what you do after you've done what you're going to do. It's like once you retire, you write a book, you write your memoirs, or you write, you know, but that's something, it's a hobby, it's not your career. Yeah. So they were wrong.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
I always say that I am a reformed type A person. I didn't understand that I hated being type A until I really like allowed this creative part of myself to just be what it was. And now like I'm such a disorganized mess, but I'm a lot happier.
Yeah, agreed. Same way. Well, I'm a little, definitely even mix of both personalities, but no, I agree. I think you give yourself permission to be a little bit crazy or disorganized according to people's definition, and I think we flourish more that way. I don't know. I get excited like the other night when we were getting ready for bed, and I looked down and I was like, oh my god, I didn't get dressed all day. And
I love that.
I think the old me sounds a lot like your personality, Stormy, because the old me would have been like, oh my god, I did not get dressed all day. It's like, who saw me? You know, I mean, I didn't leave the house, but you know,
yes.
Anyway. Yeah, it's cool. No,
I know. And I would say my version of disorganized is like what a really disorganized person would think is organized. So like it's just for my type A-ness is disorganized.
Yeah, I know. I can tell because I see a little push pin and I see a little like it's all in a row. I know.
Yeah, I have a little bit of an OCD linear thing happening.
Cool.
All right, let's see what we've got here. So Trisha and Jen are some fantastic bloggers, and they want to know if you have a favorite character that you have invented.
Favorite character.
I know it's like asking a mom to pick her favorite child.
I know, which I jokingly do all the time. They'll say something nice to me, and I'm like, "You're my favorite." So I'm probably. Yeah. I think it's probably my characters from Imitation. I spent more time developing them than anyone. So then, my main character from Imitation, she, I think it's probably because she's most like me, which probably is what every author says, but whatever, I'm saying it too. And then her cute boy, her motorcycle rider, Link, the protector, her wingman. She's definitely, by the end, not somebody who needs a protector, which I would love writing female characters like that. But anyway, I think they're my favorite, and I developed them and I developed him when I discovered motorcycles. And so actually my favorite character is probably the motorcycle. I dedicated Imitation to a motorcycle. so serious. You can go to Amazon right now and look at it and just look in the sample in the front matter, and you will see it is. So
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
So since we're already talking about imitation, Shantella wants to know a little bit more about the inspiration for the imitation series.
Sure. Well, it's originally far back in the distant past. It was conceptualized because I was trying to challenge myself with something that sounded sort of like really impossible and hard to do, and that was I was walking through my library. I saw the section on sci-fi and on clones, and started thinking. Well, I knew as a writer, the number one thing that gets you hooked in a character is empathy. You have to feel for them. You have to feel what they feel, and you have to be invested in wanting them to overcome whatever they're trying to overcome. So I thought, how hard would it be to feel empathy for something we didn't even consider human? We didn't consider a person, like a robot. And that was my first thought. I was going to make a robot a main character because they don't have feelings anyway. How can you empathize with something that can't empathize back, or doesn't have that humanity? So it was more born out of a challenge or something that just sounded really impossible. And then the clone thing, like I said, I was walking through the library and just saw all these books. I didn't really read them. I told you, I don't go into the technology. I didn't want to. I was like, oh, that sounds kind of boring, because they were nonfiction. They were like anyway. So I just didn't, but I got the idea, and the idea just sort of like snowballed into this character, this girl that I was going to make in society's eyes completely incapable of feeling anything or worthy of empathy, and then I was going to be one of for her.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do, we got about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to do another quick giveaway, our second set of books. So next person is Christy Herring, and Christy wants to know what book you're reading right now.
Ooh, I like that question. So excited. I'm reading Nowhere But Here by Katie McGarry. It's about a motorcycle gang.
Don't mind the cat.
I like it. It's fluffy. Anyway, yeah, it's a great book. And what's funny about it is I bought it. I kept seeing the cover. I didn't know anything about what it was about. And I bought it here in Guam at the bookstore, where, by the way, our choices are limited. They don't have Barnes & Noble. They don't have big bookstores. But anyway, I found it. I bought it. I put it down. And then I left for Utopia in Nashville back in June. I had never talked to Katie McGarry. I'd barely heard of her. Never read any of her other books. Anyway, I showed up at Utopia in Nashville, and she was there. I didn't even know she was coming, and she was on a panel, and I walked in for the panel, and I sat down as like to watch, and I saw her sitting there, and I was like, oh my God, I have to say something. So I fangirled her, and I walked up to her before the panel started, and I had like 2 author friends on the panel, so I'm like, hey guys, but anyway, Katie, you don't know me. I was like, you don't know me, but my name's Heather. I bought your book. I haven't read it yet. I haven't had time, but I bought your book. I didn't even know you were going to be here. This is awesome. Just want you to know, I bought your book in Guam. Your book is in Guam. And she was like, how did you buy my book? What are you doing in Guam? Like, who are you? So it led to this conversation where I hope I seemed rational. And I consider us friends now. I don't know if she does. And so then I came home. Now that I'm back home and settled, I'm finally reading it, and it's really, really good. So.
It's so awesome to me. I think that's one of my favorite things about being an author, is that you never stop fangirling, and you never understand how other people can fangirl you. It's a very strange thing, but Utopia was a lot of that for me. Like, you being here is that for me. Like, you were the one where I was like, okay, so I have to work myself up to this, and I'm going to ask Heather Hildenbrand to come to my thing, and she's probably going to tell me no, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah, see, and for me, that's super awesome and flattering, but I'm like, really? No, I never tell you no. So yeah, it never gets to where we're like, whatever, It's always fun. On whichever end of it you're on, it's always fun, and but you're always just like, no, you can do it.
Oh, I love it so much. Mm-hmm. So Christy, make sure that you email me at authorStormySmith@gmail.com to claim your Dirty Blood First 4 Books box set. Mm-hmm. Let's see here. Let's get a few more questions in before we're done. So Sleepy Wired Studios wants to know, she says, the craft of creative people is something different. What would you have done instead of being an author? Or what were you before you were an author? Maybe that's part of it.
Well, I would not go back to, I was corporate America. I would never go back to that. You're right, it's a creative thing, and I just didn't know how to break into something that was creative that would pay me. So I think this whole journey has been figuring that out. So if I wasn't an author, if I stopped doing that, which I wouldn't, but if I did, or if I devoted more of my time to something else, it would be my other sort of like side businesses, I guess they are right now, which is the publishing company and coaching. So I'm basically teaching other people to, the coaching is more for like self-published authors. If you want to be self-published and you want to do it on your own, but you need to learn how to run a business, because creative types typically aren't that business savvy or business minded unless they have some sort of experience to bring to the table in that arena. And so they kind of just suck at that because they don't want anything to do with it. It scares them. So I teach you how to, I guess, like not be scared of that and learn to treat it like a business. Or the publishing company is just like I am hopefully, you know, no, it's the same as it was.
Okay. Oh, wait, the crackling stopped. So you're good.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay, let me know if it happens again. I didn't touch anything, but I'll figure it out.
We only have like 5 or 10 minutes left, so we'll be fine.
Okay, Guam internet. We only have 5 minutes left.
Come on, Guam, stick with us.
That's right.
All right, let me scroll here, see if we've got any new questions. So I think this is an interesting one. This has been up for a little bit. I don't even know when Nina asked it, but Nina Marie is up here and she says, do you think that authors create characters or do characters create themselves?
Just saw that one right when you read it too. I was like, wow, that's deep. I guess it's a little bit of both, really. I mean, I don't know about you, Stormy, but when I'm creating a character, first of all, I usually always come up with the character before the story. You know, like I'll get an idea for a character that I'm like, okay, she, you know, then what would she overcome if this was the character? So I kind of do the character and then the storyline. But I think we conceptualize them on a basic level first, like we give them a layer of this is who they are, and then after that, all of those layers that come after to make them look three-dimensional. I think probably stem from almost like your personality. Like if I am type A personality, then that also means that I probably, you know, am organized and like things a certain way and make lists all the time. And so like that one thing that I figured out about them is going to dictate more about them. Just from, you know, just kind of spin off from that. If that makes any sense. That does not well said. You know.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I talked about this a little bit. Someone was asking me, you know, were my characters based on people that I knew or kind of what really drove them. And I was trying to explain in probably a very non-articulate way as well that when I first started writing, they were based on people that I knew because I didn't trust myself to create people who didn't already exist. But as the storylines evolved, they became themselves. I no longer had to think about giving them, you know, my personality traits or someone I know's personality traits. They just had their own, and it becomes less of a real thought process.
Yeah. Absolutely, totally. And I think that when you get to that, that's when the characters have created themselves. Because one of the things I used to always get feedback for when I first started writing, and then now when I help others and I edit, content edit for others, one of the things I see as a common, not mistake, but like an obstacle or tripping point for authors is, you know, they'll have a character react a certain way to something that is said or something that happens, and I'm like, but that's not how that character would react. You know, that's how you would react. But you built this whole person and this whole personality, and it, you know, they're in this bubble that you've given them with all these different traits and attributes, and so they would react this way. And you have to be true to your character. When they talk about like being true to your character, I think that's what it means. You've created this whole other person, and they have to react on the page the way they are supposed to. And that's tricky to learn.
It is, and it's hard at times. It is hard to separate yourself from them. It's something that you have to be very conscious about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, we just have like all these multiple people.
Oh, your Guam internet's being funky again. Sort of, but it is technically 9 o'clock. So I was going to ask you one more question, but let's see. Say something and let me see if I can hear you still.
Hello.
Okay, it's a little bit weird, but you might be able to answer this last one. The question was simply, can you talk about your next project, or do you know what it is? Like, what are you working on?
Yeah, I can, finally, because I know. So right now I'm working on editing for Generation of Wizard book in the Imitation Black book, the Imitation series. It'll be out in October. It's already up for pre-order. Can you still hear me through all that?
Yep, it stopped again.
Awesome. And then my next is I will self-publish a YA paranormal, and it's a novella mini-series. It'll be 3 novellas all in a row. So I'm just doing them all together. I'm finishing them all, and then I'll release them all like back to back. Hopefully starting in September. And it's a co-write that I did with SM Rain, and she is the author of, I think it's called the Seasons of the Moon series. It's a werewolf series, so we both started writing werewolves at the same time. She's amazing. She writes mostly adult urban fantasy now, but she's amazing. And so to co-write with her, it's my first co-write, and it's so good. She's amazing to work with. So I'm really excited about that.
That sounds so fun. So can you tell us a little bit more about the co-writing process, just because mostly I'm personally intrigued?
Yeah. Everybody I've started and stopped a couple other ones, and everybody that I've like sort of talked to about it kind of does it differently. My favorite way was with her, and that is that we did it all in Google Docs, and we did it all simultaneously. Like not necessarily online at the exact same time, although that happened a lot organically, but like we got together and we plotted it together online at the same time in the same document, just typing over each other and like having that sort of conversation that way. And then, you know, we did our sort of outline chapter by chapter, and then I would be like, okay, I'll take this chapter, you take the next one. I'll take the next one, you take it. And then wherever she would leave off like the night before or whatever, I would just pick up, you know, or if I got stuck on a scene that was supposed to be mine, I'd be like, hey, I got stuck. Can you want to tackle this? And she would finish the scene. And it would be awesome because, yeah, there's no more writer's block. It was so cool.
That's amazing.
It was so fun. And then we, of course, finished it a lot sooner, you know, because we're writing it together. So I loved it. And she's just a great writer. She writes it's really cool because reading back through it, I can't pick out what I wrote and what she wrote. And that's amazing to me.
That is so amazing. That's so impressive. Well, I'm excited for that to come out. So you're targeting September.
Yeah, I'll have more info on it, you know, sometime in August. My marketing plan, though, is that it's a surprise, probably even to me. I'm gonna, as soon as it's done, I'm putting it up. That's what I'm doing. I'm not doing like a big fanfare ahead of time and all of that. I mean, I'll send out some ARCs to my street team. In fact, if you like reviewing books and you want to join my street team, please contact me. I am building that right now, and you get stuff early. So I'll send ARCs to my street team. And
So time's up, but I want to thank you so much, Heather, for coming and spending half an hour with us and answering reader questions. It was so awesome to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for letting me come. I'm sorry I'm like in and out. It's Guam. We blame Guam.
Yeah, you know, like we only had minute issues toward the end. So really, like Guam did by us, you know, they did right by us for most of tonight.
Okay, good.
Awesome. Well, have a wonderful day and weekend since it is now Friday for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And happy book birthday if I didn't say it at the beginning.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I see all these people posting, especially Instagram, because that's where I hang out. And everybody is like, you have had so many downloads and people are talking about it everywhere and they seem really excited. So this is exciting. It's a good party.
Yeah, it's been so insane. Like somebody commented on the side that asked me how it felt to be in the top 50 free books in all of Amazon, and like I
Yay.
can't wrap my head around that right now. Like maybe in like a half an hour when I have a drink. But it's been pretty amazing, and it's really and I'm sure you understand this too. Like you become an author and like you just kind of like go, and you're always just focused on the next thing. And so to stop and really realize how much has happened in the 1 year since I hit publish is really insane.
Yeah, and you have to stop and like soak in the moment, because those keep you going when it's maybe not such a great moment.
Amen to that. All right. Well, thank you so much, Heather. Thanks again, and have an awesome day.
Thank you, you too. Mwah. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys, so it looks like there are 9 of you left, and thank you so much for hanging out until the end with me, and I hope you really enjoyed the conversation with Heather. She is just a really, really wonderful person, and someone that I kind of met via a Facebook message, random conversation, and have stayed in touch with and got to meet in person at Utopia. And honestly, everyone that has come today is someone that I got to meet in person at Utopia. And what I've learned is that authors are really amazing people, and we have a really crazy tribe, and everyone is very, very supportive of everyone else. And so I hope that you take some time and check out. Jamie McGee had free books. The first 2 books in her main series are free. Carlisle Labouchaine has books out. We talked about the Dirty Blood series and the Imitation series from Heather, and then the Casquette Girls is out right now, but they're going to be re-releasing it in November. And so please check out everything from Alys, especially her book trailers. So thank you again, and I am going to pop into the Q&A after I stop the broadcast, if it'll let me, and try to answer some of the questions I didn't get to. If you really want an answer to a question, please feel free to email me, authorstormysmith@gmail.com, and everybody who won prizes, please email me and give me a little patience. I think we gave out something like 20-some prizes, so it'll take me some time to coordinate it all, but I had a really amazing day today, and I just thank you guys so much for being on this journey with me, because I wouldn't be here if you didn't want to read the book, and I wouldn't be here if you didn't want to come hang out. And being an author is a solitary venture that is very dependent on everyone else, and you guys are my everyone else. So that's my like emotional misty moment, and I hope you have an awesome day. I will talk to you guys soon, and stay tuned for Bound by Prophecy, because it's coming. It's coming for you. Be ready. Bye, guys.